Sometimes you may lose faith in yourself. There are days when giving up feels easier, when anger turns not only toward yourself, but toward the world, when the weight of your past and your regrets feels too heavy to carry. On those days, you may wonder why you even try, whether anything you do will ever truly matter. But it does, and you do. Life is not easy, and it is rarely fair. Yet that is where its value lies. If everything was simple, nothing would carry meaning. Hardship is what teaches us, shapes us, and prepares us. Pressure creates strength. Storms reveal our roots. Difficulty is not punishment. It is what gives purpose to the path. And deep down, you already know this. Beneath the doubt, beneath the pain, there is a voice that refuses to disappear. That voice reminds you are worthy. You are enough. You are not here by accident. You are the continuation of those who came before you, their hopes, their sacrifices, their faith. Every breath you take is both a gift and a responsibility, another chance to honor the life that flows through you. The faith you carry, faith in yourself, in your endurance, in your ability to continue, is sacred. It is yours alone. It cannot be measured by anyone else. It cannot be stolen or destroyed. It can only be set aside, and that is something you must never do. You have survived storms before. You have stood in nights that seemed endless, and yet you are still here, breathing, moving forward, even if uncertain, even if scarred. That choice to keep going is its own kind of power. Remember, the effort you give to the world is never wasted. What is rooted in truth, in virtue, in faith, is never lost. Its return may not come quickly, but it always comes, sometimes quietly, sometimes in ways you cannot yet see. So carry yourself with steadiness. Trust the process, and let us begin. Chapter 1. The Stoic Roots of Faith. The Stoics did not write about faith in the way a preacher might. They spoke of discipline, of endurance, of reason, and of logos, the order that shapes all things. Yet woven quietly through their words is a current just as powerful as belief, a form of faith not in miracles, but in ourselves. This faith is not loud or dramatic. It is a steady knowing, a confidence that we are built to endure, shaped to rise again, and capable of withstanding what life places before us. The Stoics believed in reason, in virtue as the highest good, and in the natural order of things. But reason alone cannot always carry a person through despair. When the world falls apart, when what we depend on externally is stripped away, what remains? For the Stoics, though rarely named, the answer was faith. Not the faith of waiting for intervention, but the faith of trusting the strength within. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome and student of his own inner battles, wrote, "Dig within. Within is the wellspring of good, and it is always ready to bubble up, if you will only dig." This was his faith, not in distant promises, but in the inexhaustible resources of the soul. He wrote not as a ruler above struggle, but as a man wrestling with his own doubts. His conclusion was simple. The world need not be perfect, but he must remain faithful to his own nature. For the Stoics, faith was a quiet agreement with existence. I will walk the path before me. I will not flee adversity. I will not pray for ease, but for strength. It was the whisper that said rise when every part of you longed to fall, the unseen thread that bound purpose to persistence. This agreement was never about securing outcomes, but about becoming the kind of person who endures them with dignity. Seneca once reminded us that misfortune is not punishment, but a test. Fate, he said, does not crush the strong, it reveals them. In his view, adversity was a sacred invitation, Not all receive it, but those who do and accept it enter a space where wisdom and resilience are forged. This is faith in the Stoic sense, not a passive waiting, but an active commitment. It is the willingness to stumble with integrity, to fail without surrender, to suffer without losing sight of meaning. It appears not in grand declarations, but in the smallest choices. This was not naive hope, nor blind trust. It was practiced, earned, and proven over time. It was the fruit of 1,000 quiet victories, choosing courage over comfort, clarity over confusion, and meaning over despair. Faith, for the Stoics, was simply this: to stand up one more time than you fall, to take one more breath even when the air feels thin, and to continue believing in the strength that lives within you. When belief seems foolish. When the Stoics spoke of fate, of resilience, of clarity, they were also pointing to something deeper. Beneath their reasoned words was the quiet heartbeat of faith, steady, unbreakable, and enduring. An invisible flame carried from one soul to another, from Zeno to Epictetus, from Marcus to us. It is the voice that whispers, "I will not be broken. I will not turn away." Chapter 2. The path is hard, and that is the point. Epictetus was born into slavery. He walked with a limp for most of his life, and yet from his hardships he taught freedom. Not freedom of circumstance, but freedom of the soul. He once said, "Difficulties show men what they are. If life were without resistance, we would remain hollow. Without struggle, there would be no strength. Without night, there would be no dawn. It is friction that shapes us, pain that reveals us, and endurance that refines us." This does not mean suffering should be welcomed for its own sake. It means that suffering has a purpose. Faith is not the belief that storms will pass you by. Faith is the quiet confidence that you can withstand them. Consider the life of Epictetus. Born into bondage, disabled, and vulnerable to the whims of a master, he faced more hardship at birth than most encounter in a lifetime. And yet, he refused to be defined by it. Under the guidance of Musonius Rufus, he studied philosophy while still enslaved, drinking deeply from the wisdom of the Stoics. When freedom finally came, he did not pursue revenge nor riches. He pursued truth. And in doing so, he became one of the greatest teachers of his age, his words echoing still, centuries later. His legacy was not carved by conquest or wealth, but by the discipline of inner virtue, self-restraint, and moral clarity. He chose integrity over resentment, wisdom over vengeance, and endurance over despair. That is why his name has endured, and why his teachings remain alive. Epictetus did not demand kindness from the world. He did not expect fairness or mercy. What he demanded, unyieldingly, was excellence from himself. Each day he woke asking not how life might spare him, but how he might live rightly, despite it. To him, every obstacle was a test of character, every disappointment a refining flame. Hardship was not a reason to fall apart. It was the very reason to rise. And that is the lesson he left for us. You cannot control events, but you can control your attitude toward them. This was the heart of Epictetus's teaching. Real power, he showed, does not come from possessions or from ruling others. It comes from who you become in the daily trials of life. For him, philosophy was never a luxury. It was a necessity, armor for the soul, a compass for the uncertain path, and a shield against chaos. It gave him footing when the world offered none. Through it, he cultivated serenity, not by withdrawing from life, but by meeting it with conviction. Faith, for Epictetus, was not a belief in happy endings. It was the unwavering trust that virtue itself is enough. that a life lived with integrity and purpose, however unseen or uncelebrated, is greater than any comfort or recognition. Faith meant staying rooted in principle when applause faded, when opportunities vanished, when loss returned again and again. It was choosing steadiness, especially when the ground trembled. This was the kind of faith that gave strength to others. Epictetus did not simply lecture. He prepared his students for hardship. His words were not abstract theories. They were tested by suffering, refined by restraint, and proven by endurance. He asked his listeners to release their grip on what they could never control, and to hold fast to what they always could, their own mind, their own heart. And in that his faith was fulfilled, not in ease or reward, but in legacy, a legacy not of monuments or medals, but of quiet strength passed down through generations, soldiers, philosophers, students, and solitary souls. Anyone who has felt abandoned by life, yet refused to abandon themselves, has walked in his light. His name endures after 2,000 years because his light was never borrowed. It was kindled from within, from the pure flame of self-command and resilience. That is the kind of faith that never dies, because it was never dependent on the world to begin with. It was born in the soul and shaped by the will. Chapter 3. The fire cannot be burned. The Stoics often spoke of the soul as a fire, a divine spark, not a fragile flicker, but a force of nature to be guarded, nurtured, and honored. The fire is your essence, your courage, your reason, your resilience, and like any true flame, it depends on the fuel you provide, your choices, your thoughts, your virtues. Life will test that fire. Storms will come, trying to smother it with fear, doubt, and sorrow. They whisper that your light is fading, that your strength is not enough. But here is the truth. When you protect the fire, it does not weaken, it grows brighter. Each act of integrity, each choice made with purpose adds fuel, and the flame roars back to life. Seneca once wrote, "It is not that we have a short life, but that we waste much of it." And how do we waste it? By letting the fire go cold, by waiting for permission to live boldly, by numbing ourselves with comfort and distraction, when what we truly need is challenge and direction. We waste it when we let routine dull our spirit, forgetting that growth requires struggle, and clarity is born in the midst of chaos. The flame dims when you forget who you are, when you ignore conscience, when you trade purpose for convenience. But it reignites the moment you act with intention, not through grand gestures, but through small, deliberate steps. It returns when you turn back to yourself, not the self others demand, but the self your soul recognizes, the one who holds the line when it would be easier to yield, the one who chooses to keep going, even in silence. The fire grows when you replace "I'll try" with "I will." When you choose action over excuses, even when tired, even when doubt whispers at the edges, when you let the voice of your calling speak louder than the voice of fear, it burns strongest when you stand firm, not for applause, but because your soul demands it, because you know deep down that every choice is a declaration of who you are. The turning point comes the moment you take ownership, not because it is easy, but because it is right. Ownership of your choices, your mistakes, your strength, and your failures. Ownership of your responsibilities and of your power to change. When you stop pointing outward and instead say, "This is mine to face," something shifts. In that act, you grow larger than the pain, steadier than the storm. You stop shrinking in adversity's shadow and begin expanding into the full shape of your potential. You no longer hide from your reflection. You meet it with honor. You begin to embody the Stoic spirit, not just in thought, but in the core of your being. It enters your posture, your tone, your breath. What was once a fragile spark becomes a guiding light, an unwavering fire that warms even the coldest places. Something sacred, something no external force can shake. Faith is remembering that fire, not merely noticing it, but protecting it, nurturing it, and defending it against self-betrayal. It is fed by daily discipline, not only on strong days, but especially on weak ones. It is guarded from the winds of distraction and despair, shielded from the whispers of doubt. It is fanned by small acts of courage, by moments of truth, and by the silence that listens inward. This fire does not thrive in comfort. It grows through confrontation, through friction, through resistance. It is forged in your willingness to endure for something higher. It asks for honesty, for grit, for your presence. When the crowds disappear, when the lights fade, when reward is uncertain. It demands that you hold fast to virtue when your heart feels hollow and your hands are tired. When the world is loud with chaos, it calls for quiet devotion. Not only in public but in private, when no one is watching, when nothing seems to change, it asks you to choose patience when urgency tempts you, to give kindness when bitterness feels justified, to stay rooted when life pulls you in every direction. The Stoic fire thrives in these unseen victories, in the strength that endures without applause, in the soul that becomes its own witness and guardian. It does not wait for inspiration. It creates it. It does not seek miracles. It becomes one. It does not rely on circumstance. It relies on character. It does not dream of easier days. It learns to grow stronger. It does not beg for the end of hardship. It learns to honor the process of enduring it with dignity. That is the essence of the Stoic fire, and it lives within you. Your task is not to light it. It is already there. Your task is to protect it, to strengthen it, and to never let it die. Carry it as a beacon for yourself and for others, even through the darkest nights. And in doing so, you become more than a bearer of light. You become proof that a faithful fire can outlast the storm. Chapter 4. Self-respect is the root of faith. One of the most overlooked Stoic principles is keeping promises to yourself. Not only the great vows made aloud, but the small, quiet commitments, the ones whispered in the morning or felt in the stillness of night. Marcus Aurelius woke each day to battles, not only at the borders of his empire, but within his own mind. He wrestled with fatigue, doubt, and resistance. And yet he reminded himself at dawn, you have to rise. You have to go to work as a human being. He chose self-respect even when he did not feel like it, especially when he did not feel like it. He showed up not for applause, but to remain aligned with his principles. For him, this was a form of devotion, a quiet discipline of the soul, guided not by ego or validation, but by the steady compass of virtue. Self. Respect is not a passing feeling. It is a habit, a sacred ritual practiced in private. It is doing what you said you would do, not because it is easy or even exciting, but because it is who you said you would be. It is proving to yourself that your word has weight, that your intentions deserve action. It is choosing discomfort over regret, purpose over passivity, principle over impulse, and order over chaos. And it is knowing this, you are not only capable, but worthy of effort, worthy of transformation, worthy of being counted on by your own mind, even when nothing else feels certain. When you break promises to yourself, even in small ways, something is lost. I'll do it tomorrow. It doesn't matter. No one will notice. Each excuse chips away at trust. Each neglected vow is a fracture in your foundation. Over time, you begin to doubt your own voice. You stop believing yourself. And when that belief erodes, so too does faith, not all at once, but slowly, quietly, until conviction becomes an echo. But when you follow through, especially when no one is watching, you build something indestructible. Every act of integrity lays a stone. Every kept promise raises a wall. Every temptation resisted, every task completed, every moment you choose principle over convenience strengthens the foundation. In time, what you build is a sanctuary, a temple within your soul. It shelters you from self-doubt, offering clarity when confusion presses close. It gives you peace in the mirror, the kind of peace that cannot be borrowed or bought. It reminds you that your promises are sacred, that your habits shape your destiny, and that even your smallest actions write the story of your character. The more you invest in this temple, the more it gives back, not with loud rewards, but with the quiet strength of knowing who you are. You begin to carry an inner dignity that does not sway with opinion or crumble under setback. You become anchored in your own moral architecture. That is faith, built brick by your own hand. Sacred not because others recognize it, but because you revere it within. This faith becomes your anchor when the seas are rough, your compass when the world lures you astray. It steadies you in chaos, softens you in judgment, strengthens you in truth. It is your silent oath to remain faithful to the path, head high, back straight, heart open, and in that devotion, you become immovable, not because nothing touches you, but because nothing can turn you from who you are. Chapter 5. Daily rituals that build faith, confidence, and conviction. Faith does not arrive fully formed. It is not given as a gift, nor does it appear by chance. It is built, patiently, deliberately, through the habits that shape our days. Moment by moment, it is sculpted in the quiet work of routine, sharpened by discipline, and strengthened by consistency. It is easy to hope. It is easy to wish, but to live with faith each day requires structure, intention, and the willingness to return again and again to the practices that anchor the soul. The Stoics understood this well. They did not leave faith to chance. They cultivated it with rituals. Here are practices they would have approved of, habits that, if repeated with sincerity, help call forth your highest self each day. 1. Morning reflection. Before the noise of the day begins, pause. Ask yourself, what kind of person will I be today? Visualize yourself acting with courage, with patience, with discipline. Prepare your mind for the tests ahead, for every interaction is a chance to live your values. Write down a single guiding principle, something like patience over reaction or clarity before judgment. Let it serve as your compass when the day grows heavy. Do not stumble into the hours ahead. Step into them with intention. 2. Evening inventory. At night, look back. As Seneca wrote, when the light has been removed and my wife has fallen silent, I examine my entire day. Ask yourself, where did I rise? Where did I fall? Where was I true to myself? And where did I falter? Reflection is not meant for guilt. It is meant for growth. Notice the emotions that led you astray, the thoughts that held you back. Each review is a lesson. Each lesson is a seed for tomorrow. 3. Keep one promise. Each day, choose one thing, just one, that you will keep to. A workout, a call, a task. Let it be simple, but meaningful. What matters is not the size of the action, but the integrity it represents. When your word and your actions align, your spirit grows stronger. Even on difficult days, this single kept promise becomes a light. Let it be your minimum standard of honor, a daily act of reliability. 4. Face one fear. The Stoics did not run from discomfort. They leaned into it, knowing that fear loses its grip when met with action. Ask yourself, what am I avoiding? Then take a step toward it, not recklessly, but willingly. Each act in the face of fear is a message to yourself. I am not ruled by this. It does not have to be grand. Sometimes the smallest confrontations carry the greatest meaning, making the call, speaking the truth, sitting in silence. With each step, resilience is built. 5. Remember fate. Practice amor fati, the love of fate. Say to yourself, what happens is not happening to me, but for me. See every challenge not as punishment, but as a puzzle. Let hardship deepen you rather than diminish you. To love fate is to accept life whole, not only its joys, but its burdens, trusting that both shape the soul in ways comfort never could. These rituals are not tasks to be checked off, but practices to be lived. They require little more than presence and sincerity. But over time, they build something lasting. Faith in yourself, confidence in your path, and conviction that you can meet life as it comes. Your wisdom sharpens through practice. Your edge is refined not in ease, but in challenge. This is how adversity shifts from burden to blessing. Look to nature, how it accepts each season without protest. Let the unexpected teach you flexibility. When you stop fighting what is and start aligning with it, your energy is reclaimed. Fate is not your enemy. It is the sculptor, and you are the marble. 6. Silent centering. Take 5 minutes for stillness. Just breathe. Listen to the world around you, to the rhythm of your breath, to the quiet voice within. This is your anchor. The reminder that you are more than your obligations, more than the noise of your thoughts. You are the observer, not the prisoner. Silence is not an absence of action. It is the foundation of insight. Use this space to reset your body, to calm your mind, and to return to what matters. If thoughts arise, greet them gently. Let them pass like clouds across the sky. In time, silence begins to speak. 7. Acts of service. Each day, do something small for someone else, expecting nothing in return. Not to feel superior, but to remember that your strength is not meant only for yourself. You are part of something greater. Service sharpens gratitude, and gratitude strengthens faith. No act is too small. Hold a door. Send a kind word. Give your time. The Stoics believed in cosmopolitanism, that we are all citizens of one world. Service turns this belief into action. These rituals are anchors for the soul. They do not depend on fleeting emotion, but on steady action. Feelings rise and fall, but disciplined practice endures. Faith is not built by waiting for inspiration. It is built by showing up when it's difficult, by choosing the hard thing when ease is close at hand, by returning again and again to your values until they shape your very being. The Stoics knew this well. Virtue is not a destination, but a daily decision. Consistency in the smallest matters leads to mastery in the greatest. Every moment, no matter how ordinary, is an invitation to cultivate strength within. When you embrace these rituals, not as burdens, but as devotions, you begin to change. Your thoughts grow clearer, your responses steadier, your confidence no longer tied to outcomes, but rooted in integrity. And when you live this way, life itself becomes a forged art. Your faith becomes unbreakable. Each habit a spark, each principle a flame, each trial a chance to grow brighter. Once resented, hardships become the hammer and the anvil. They shape you, not into someone brittle, but into someone calm, strong, and immovable. The more you live with intention, the more your life reflects the quiet iron of a person who cannot be undone, because they have chosen to be remade by discipline. Chapter 6. Faith and the Puzzle of Fate. Fate is a strange companion. At times it blesses us, at times it breaks us, and at times it answers our cries with silence. To the Stoics, though, fate was never an enemy. It was a teacher, stern, yet wise. It does not shape itself around our comfort. It shapes us toward our growth. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. The block becomes the bridge. The setback becomes the lesson. The heartbreak becomes the teacher. Every obstacle is more than a barrier. It is an invitation to rise, if we let it. The pain we resist often contains the insight we most need. The resistance itself creates the pressure that forges our principles. When you are in the thick of suffering, this truth is not easy to see. The sky feels low, time slows, the future blurs. You wonder if the effort is worth it, if the struggle will ever turn into something meaningful. You search for signs, for clarity, for reasons, and still there is only silence. And yet, you walk anyway. Not because you are certain, but because you have chosen to trust. You keep moving forward, even if it is only one step, even if your heart trembles, even if doubt follows close behind. That is faith. It is not loud. It does not need applause. It is the quiet decision to keep showing up, to keep breathing with intention, to keep honoring your values even when your emotions beg you to betray them. It is the willingness to believe there is meaning, even if you cannot yet see it. You may not be meant to see the full picture. You are in a chapter, not the whole book. Just because you do not understand it now does not mean it will not make sense one day. The Stoics knew this. Clarity does not come from demanding answers, but from continuing the walk. One foot, then another, even with tearful eyes. Faith is not built in comfort. It is the muscle you strengthen when life tries to wear you down. It is the compass you carry through the fog, even when the stars are hidden. And then, in time, sometimes months, sometimes years, the pain softens into perspective. Hardship ripens into humility. The silence you once feared becomes quiet strength. Meaning arrives like dawn, slow, subtle, yet undeniable. You look back and see that nothing was wasted. Every struggle added weight to your spirit. Every detour was part of the greater map. From hindsight, you gain foresight, the ability to trust even when the road is still dark. But this is reserved for those who keep walking, for those who refuse to surrender to uncertainty, for those who do not need to know the outcome in order to stay faithful to the process. They are the ones who can say, "This too will serve me," and mean it. They trust not because the path is easy, but because they have decided that purpose is stronger than pain. That is the Stoic path. That is the reward of faith. The journey itself transforms you, and in the end, you do not merely endure. You become unshakable because of what you endured. Chapter 7. When you want to give up. There are days when everything hurts. When your efforts feel invisible, when progress crawls, when loneliness gnaws at your spirit, when silence feels louder than your thoughts, when the weight of your own expectations presses down until nothing seems to make sense. On those days, you may question your purpose. You may doubt your path. You may wonder why you even try. Remember this: you are not alone. Not now, not ever. Others have walked this road before you. Not just anyone, but the strongest souls in history. People who bled, who broke, who doubted, and yet still rose. The Stoics walked this path as well, in cold winters, in broken homes, in exile, on battlefields, in silence. They endured betrayals, losses, and disappointments. They felt failure's sting, grief's ache, and the sharp silence of solitude. And they moved forward, not because life was kind, but because they refused to abandon what was right. You are a continuation of that legacy. You carry their courage, reborn in modern form. Every time you refuse to quit, you write another verse in the unbroken song of strength. Think of your ancestors, those who sacrificed, suffered, and survived so that you could have a chance. Their faith, their endurance, their perseverance, it lives in you. Your struggle is not isolated. It is connected to theirs, in spirit, in blood, in purpose. Do not let the light they pass to you flicker out in fear. Let your life be proof that their sacrifices were not in vain. Let your endurance answer their hopes. You owe it to them, and more importantly, you owe it to yourself, to the version of yourself still waiting to be revealed. Keep going. Keep climbing. This moment is not the end. It is the test before the rise. Chapter 8. Practical Tools to Strengthen Faith. Faith is not just an emotion, it is also a practice. It is built step by step through process and discipline. It is not about feeling hope when life is easy. It is about having a system that keeps you steady when everything is chaotic. Faith grows through conscious rituals, through holding yourself to a standard, through following through even when your mood tells you to quit. Each action becomes a thread in the fabric of belief. Every day lived with discipline strengthens your faith, not because you feel it, but because you prove it. The do it anyway method. Feel unmotivated? Do it anyway. Mood is irrelevant. Motion matters. The action does not need to be perfect. It only needs to happen. The mind catches up once motion begins. This is mental toughness disguised as simplicity. Each time you choose action over mood, you reinforce your strength. The 5-year lens. Ask yourself, will I regret quitting this in 5 years? Perspective stretches time and clarifies the path. Temporary discomfort is small in the view of what your persistence will build. Faith is sustained not by fleeting feelings, but by measured decisions over time. Builds perseverance. The 5-year lens helps you step back from present frustration and see the bigger picture. What feels overwhelming today often becomes just a footnote in the story of your growth. Discipline now earns freedom later. The feelings of this moment are fleeting, but your choices echo into the future. Regret, unlike effort, cannot be undone. The one more rule, one more rep, one more day, one more honest effort. Never underestimate the compound effect of one more. Progress lives in repetition. Strength lives in persistence. Each one more deepens your resilience, stacking quietly in your favor. Momentum is not always loud. Often it is made in whispers. Each time you choose action over quitting, you add a layer of character, turning pain into armor. Journaling. When you suffer, write it down. Record what you learned. Over time, you will start to associate struggle with wisdom. Hardship becomes raw material for growth. Instead of hiding from pain, you translate it into lessons that guide your future. Your journal becomes a library of survival, a blueprint for resilience, a testament that your struggles were not wasted. It is a map through the dark. The no 0 days rule. Never let a day pass without one small act toward your ideal self. Even 5 minutes, even a single step, a brief burst of effort. This keeps momentum alive and preserves your identity as a person of action. Over time, the streak builds belief. Belief becomes identity. The mind learns, I always show up. The soul echoes back, this is who I am. Remember, the tools only work if you use them, but when you do, they are unstoppable. Chapter 9, The Storm is the School. Now let us go deeper into the trials that test the soul. Step into the storm, not to fear it, but to study it. Stand inside its winds and understand its message. Learn the language of adversity. Become fluent in the art of endurance. The storm is not here to destroy you. It is here to instruct you. Chaos is certain. Betrayal, heartbreak, loss, injustice. These are not outliers. They are part of the human condition. They arrive uninvited, shaking the foundations you once believed stable. And yet, the paradox, the very forces that seek to break you, are the ones that reveal you. The storm is not your enemy. It is your school. It will test your patience, your resilience, your identity. It will uncover the depth of your inner discipline and reveal your hidden strength. The Stoics did not pray for an easy path. They did not expect the world to be kind. They trained themselves to become stronger, to meet adversity without surrender. Marcus Aurelius wrote, when jarred unavoidably by circumstance, revert at once to yourself. When the world shook him, he steadied himself within. This is the essence of Stoic composure, not apathy, but centeredness, not withdrawal, but quiet command. They trained their minds to return to the center when life pulled them to the edge. They conditioned their will so that pain sharpened them rather than shattered them. They believed that turmoil was not punishment, but a crucible. They prepared their character like a soldier polishes armor, not for decoration, but for survival. When people lie to you, speak falsely of you, or abandon you, good. That is your invitation to remain honest, not to retaliate with harm, but to respond with integrity, to be a mountain unmoved by petty winds. When the plans you carefully built fall apart, good. That is your chance to practice acceptance and adaptation, to reshape yourself, to rise stronger, to become fluid like water yet anchored in principle like stone. When everything you thought was permanent disappears, good. That is your lesson in impermanence, in detachment, in trusting the process even when the outcome is unknown. These are not misfortunes. They are sacred rites of passage. Only those with the courage to endure them earn their transformation. These moments are not detours. They are the curriculum. Life is not interrupting your path. It is the path. Every disruption, every delay, every discomfort is tailored for your growth. Each sharp edge is a chisel sculpting your soul. Each setback is a mirror showing where work remains. To the untrained eye, it is chaos. To the Stoic, it is sacred instruction. The very pain that blinds most becomes a torch in the hands of the prepared. The noise that distracts others becomes music to the ears of the awakened. When approached with courage, something remarkable happens. Instead of losing yourself in the storm, you find yourself through it. You begin to see with clarity, stripped of illusion, wiser, steadier. The chaos no longer assaults. It instructs. Instead of asking why it came, you ask, what is this here to teach me? You peel back the layers that no longer serve you. You shed ego, entitlement, fear. You strip away false identities built on approval, avoidance, or the illusion of control. What remains is your essence, untouched, unshaken, unafraid. You recognize that peace was never outside. It was the stillness forged within. It is the clarity that comes not when life is easy, But when you face difficulty without abandoning yourself, you emerge refined, not ruined, tempered like steel, not shattered like glass, transformed, not torn. You are humbled, not diminished. You are made whole, not by escaping pain, but by engaging it with dignity. You become your own shelter. You become the calm within your own storm. That is the reward of faith in chaos. You do not need the winds to calm in order to rise. You do not need the storm to stop to find your footing. Your strength is not in the silence after the storm. It is in how you stand during it. It is in how you hold your values while everything around you trembles. It is in how you breathe, deep, slow, unwavering. It is in how you speak when others rage, not to match their noise, but to restore your own equilibrium. It is in how you remain faithful to who you are, even when the world dares you to break, even when it tries to convince you that survival requires surrender, not to remain steadfast in the storm. That is faith in its purest form. That is living your philosophy, not just reciting it. That is the sacred power of a mind disciplined by reason and a heart anchored by principle. Chapter 10. The Return to the Summit. We have climbed far through darkness, doubt, and fire, and now we return, not to where we began, but to a higher vantage point. A summit not of ease, but of earned perspective. This is the return to clarity, to purpose, to the realization that the path was always about becoming. This is the essence of the Stoic journey, not escaping life's trials, but transcending them. Not by avoiding hardship, but by walking through it so many times that you become stronger than the storm. Your faith is no longer blind, it is embodied. It lives in your breath, your posture, your word. It is in the way you carry silence, the way you hold your gaze with calm conviction. It is no longer a concept. It is who you are. The Stoics taught that we do not control events, only how we respond to them. And when we respond with virtue again and again, we become unstoppable. Not because life becomes easier, but because we have trained ourselves to meet it on its terms. We are no longer waiting for life to change. We have changed. That is the reward of faith. Transformation. To become someone whose stability does not depend on approval, whose discipline does not vanish under pressure, whose courage does not shrink in the face of fear. You have built a soul that does not need to be seen to be strong, one that asks no permission to exist boldly. You have created a life that makes sense in your own heart, whether or not the world applauds. You have become someone who can walk through fire and not lose their way, who can sit in silence and still hear purpose calling. Your confidence is steady, not loud. It lives in the way you carry your scars like medals, your failures like maps. This return is not a final destination. It is a new beginning, a return not to sameness, but to your essence, awakened and refined. It is a reunion with your truest self, the part that was always present, though perhaps buried beneath fear, distraction, or uncertainty. You return now, not only with scars, but with sacred knowledge, with a grounded spirit, with wisdom in your walk, gravity in your words, gentleness in your hands, and a posture that speaks of strength without needing to shout. You return with the awareness that everything you need has always lived within you, waiting for you to be ready, waiting for you to become worthy. Through the fire of persistence, you are no longer the same. You are the storm. You are the calm. You are the fire that cannot be extinguished because you have faced the dark and did not flinch. You faced the void and answered with presence. You have stood where others would have fallen, and not only endured, but evolved. The transformation is not a change of identity. It is a revelation of what was always true, always latent, waiting to be remembered. So when you rise tomorrow, rise with the memory of this path. Carry it not as a burden, but as a torch. Let it illuminate your choices, your conversations, your courage. Let it soften your judgments and sharpen your vision. Let it guide you when the road narrows, remind you when the night grows long. Let it be the whisper in your mind when fear speaks louder than reason. Let it be the quiet fire in your chest when the world grows cold. You have walked through storms. You have crossed your doubts. You have climbed the mountain that is yourself. And that mountain was never made of stone. It was made of moments, of trials, of truths you chose to stand on. Every step was a lesson. Every fall a refinement, every sunrise a reminder that you are still becoming, every scar a symbol that you did not retreat, that you chose to keep going even when your knees trembled and your voice cracked. And now you stand, not above others but above your old self, stronger in silence, softer in wisdom, sharper in intention, wiser in restraint. Fiercer in purpose. In that elevation you see clearly. You feel deeply. You move intentionally. You are no longer driven by urgency, but by meaning. No longer reacting, but choosing. You lead not with fear, but with clarity. You walk not to prove yourself, but to live as proof of the truth you have cultivated. You are the message. You are the mirror that reflects what happens when faith is held through every storm, when discipline replaces despair. And that, more than anything, proves this one truth: your faith has rewarded you.